Now it is my privilege to introduce Chris Anderson, the Seminole County Supervisor of Elections. Chris is a combat veteran who served in Afghanistan in 2002, just after the 9/11 attacks. He was appointed by Governor Ron DeSantis as Supervisor of Elections in Seminole County in 2019. Prior to that, he has served as Seminole County Deputy Sheriff and background investigator, and is a certified truth verification examiner. He has also served in law enforcement roles for the Indian River County Sheriff's Office and the Apopka Police Department. Chris is a graduate of Columbia College with a degree in criminal justice, and he is also a licensed pilot. Chris and his wife, Ebony, have been married for 20 years. They have one son and two daughters. So please join me in giving a warm Rotary welcome to Chris Anderson. Chris?
I always enjoy talking to voters and filling them in on new things. One of the new things that we're going to start doing is we have a State of the Union, right? The president has a State of the Union. The governor has a State of the State. We have a State of the County in our respective counties. But as we move along into this new era, as I refer to it, in elections, I think it's becoming more and more important for us to have a state of the election. So in Seminole County, I will be doing a state of election video after the session, after the legislative session ends, because I get a lot of phone calls from voters asking, how's Senate Bill 90 going to affect us? How's HR 1 or Senate Bill 1 on the federal level going to affect us? So I said, you know what? I can put out a very short video that hits the topic, answers the questions, gets you the information, and it's always available. You know, we have so many different platforms where we can receive and transmit the information. My goal as a supervisor of elections is to use those to communicate to voters, because I can guarantee you, I can see right now, all of you have a lot of questions. You're like, come on, Chris, let's get to it. Because I got my hand, I'm ready to raise it, right? So in Seminole County, unlike a lot of the other counties, we are a county where our voting population is leveling out. According to the Times Magazine, we are the picture of the United States. We have 117,000 registered Republicans, 117,000 registered Democrats, and about 100,000 registered no party affiliated voters or minor party affiliated. That's leveling out. So that means that more than likely, no party affiliated voters, not independents, if you are a registered independent, you are affiliated with a political party in the state of Florida. The Independent Party of Florida is a political party. NPA, no party affiliated voters. Those voters will have a direct impact on elections within Seminole County. If you look at counties like here in Orange County, you have a demographic or a party affiliation of voters who greatly outnumber the rest of the voting population. So it's a lot different. So of course, with Seminole County, the national news pays a lot of attention to how that county is going to go. It has trended blue at the top of the ticket in our last two general election cycles. 2018, Governor DeSantis did not win Seminole County. 2020, candidate Donald Trump did not win Seminole County. However, every Republican on the ballot for county level office, whether they were an incumbent or not, was elected. How did that happen? That is a question. As I've gone to many different groups, including the Rotary Club in our county, those folks are asking, how did that happen? What happened? So we had to take a bit of a deep dive into our election. So just to give you a brief recap of Seminole County voting population as it translated to the 2020 election cycle, general election, we had a 78.4% turnout. That's among the highest in the Central Florida area. But that's actually not our highest turnout. We've actually had a higher turnout before in 2016, only 1% less. We had 78.5%. So we had 262,000 voters cast a ballot. out of 335,000 registered voters at book vote. Now, what was the most popular method of voting last year? Vote by mail, right? And how many folks voted by mail? Excellent. How many of you put it in the mailbox? Okay. So vote by mail was extremely popular for all supervisor elections across the state, all 67. We all had an increase in our vote by mail. In Seminole County in 2016, we had about 66,000 people vote by mail. We had about 85,000 folks request a ballot. In 2020, we had 137,000 folks request a ballot. And we had about 104,000 folks actually turn that ballot back into and vote by mail. That is a very significant increase. So that was a very popular method of voting. However, early voting still outweighs all the other methods of voting. That is the most popular method of voting. How many folks voted early? Yeah, see that? There you go. The numbers prove themselves, right? Early voting is awesome. People love it. And I don't believe that that will ever change. I think early voting will remain a very, very popular method of voting. Now, election day. Election day is actually a declining method. Folks don't want to wait till the last minute, right? But there are some who are election day voters. Where are my election day voters at? There they are. I was an election day voter, right? Until I got busy on election day, and then I had to decide to vote by mail. I decided to vote by mail for 2 reasons. I voted by mail in all 3 elections last year. I voted by mail in the presidential preference primary, which is in March, because I wanted to test the system that I was responsible for. I wanted to be able to say to Seminole County voters that the system that I'm responsible for, if you have invested power, it works. It is very hard for them to recognize Chris Anderson's ballot out of the hundreds of thousands that we got, right? So I can stand here proudly and say the system that we have to vote by mail, that we all use in all counties, because it's very strict laws surrounding it. There is no wiggle room for any SOE. You have to do it by the book. It works. And did we not prove ourselves in the 2020 election cycle? Yes, we did. We surely did. I believe Florida regained a lot of stature and a lot of respect in 2020. All 67 of us knew that there was one team, one fight. We all operate. There is no such thing as party affiliation in the world of election administration. Bill Cowles is a different party affiliation than me. He is my assigned mentor through the association. I call Bill all the time. I'm very blessed that he answers the phone. He's been doing this for, I'm 39. He's been doing it for about as long as I've been alive. So when you have someone right next door that has that type of experience, and he's willing to share that type of experience, who am I not to take that experience and do something with it? So I have a great relationship with all of the supervisors. I can tell you, Alan Hayes, he and I spent about 2 hours on the phone the first time we spoke. He's another supervisor of elections that I reach out to. Mary Jane Aaron. I know all these folks intimately because I pay respect to them because they've been doing it longer than I have. And also, they have a lot of knowledge and wisdom. And I wanted to be a part of a team, a system of election administrators committed to working principally and delivering the best results that we could in the 2020 elections. And by the way, no pressure, Chris. Your first election cycle, there's going to be a worldwide pandemic on top. All right. So I'll talk to you a little bit more about how we got through that. So we had about 42,000 folks vote on election. So as you can see, that's a decline. We had 56,000 folks vote in 2016 on election day in the presidential election. So election day is a method of voting that is declining because all these other methods are very popular and they're very secure. So how secure are they? That is the question, right? How secure are our elections in Florida? Well, I'm going to give you a real digest version of how the election process works. So about 25 days prior to start of early voting, we have to conduct a logic and accuracy. Now, has anyone attended a logic and accuracy test at their election? I didn't think so. Most people don't know that it is open to the public. You can go to your elections office. You can go to the website. You can call your elections office and say, when are you doing your logic and accuracy test? Testing the machines that I will be using to vote on in this election. And they will give you the date because they have to by law. It is open to the public. The logic and accuracy test is a test where we take a percentage of our machines. In Seminole County, because our most popular method of voting is early voting, we go ahead and put in all of our early voting machines, because that's where the majority of our ballots are coming from, right? Into this logic and accuracy test. And from the public, and a member of the Department of State is dispatched to attend that meeting. And then we test the machine. We have a test day where we are running multiple ballots, either way, any way they can go in, opposite way, front, back, to show the public and the Department of State that the machines that we're using in this election are good working order. Now I'm going to take a step back. How do I know that the software that's on the machine isn't being tampered with? Right? Side note, Lake County, Osceola County, Seminole, and Orange, we use the same tabulation system, which is ES&S, not Dominion. I don't say that to say anything bad about the products. Leon County, which is obviously where the governor voted, and any other folks in Tallahassee, they use Dominion products. And according to Supervisor Mark Early, Dominion products work perfectly fine in Leon County. There are 18 counties in the state of Florida that utilize Dominion products. So, and as you can see, we had a successful election throughout the state of Florida. So I say that just to answer questions, because that is a very popular question that I get. So how do we know that the software is secure, that it's not being tampered? Prior to the software being loaded on any tabulation, the software has to be sent to the Department of State from the vendor. The Department of State cyber navigators, the cyber ninjas, as you can refer to them, they have to inspect the software. They have to make sure that there's no malware, ransomware, nothing on that software that is going to go into the machine. They don't give it back to ES&S or the vendor, the tabulation vendor when it's done. No. They send that software directly to each SOE. Each SOE. So I get it. So then my vendor, which is ES&S, shows up and under camera surveillance and under a monitor, which is our senior technician who watches it. The software is given to them, and then we watch them load it onto the tabulation machine. That is very common practice throughout every elections office in the state of Florida. So that's how we know that the system, that the operating system is free from intrusion. And also that's how we know the logic accuracy proves that the machines are in good working order. It is a common belief that we just kind of dust the machines off and pray for the best when we put them into election. That's not what we do. We have to do that before every election. Every election. Doesn't matter which one. In Seminole County, we will have 2 elections, possibly. We had a commissioner in Longwood resign, so we will have a special election in August. So we will have to test our machines prior to. We will have an election in Oviedo in November of this year. We will test the machines prior to. Now, we go through the elections process. A voting precinct is like a bank. Does anyone here work in a bank or has ever worked at it? So you're going to be very familiar with what I'm about to describe. Before you went home, did they have to account for all the money inside of that place? Right? No, don't you leave. We're missing $1. We're missing $1. Empty your pocket, put it on the table. We got to find this money, right? Well, I refer to ballots as political currency. Now, maybe that might be a cryptocurrency. That's just an idea. That's how I am. I just come up with stuff, right? Political currency, right? A ballot is political currency, right? That's what we're taking. We have to account for it. During early voting, we have to account for every ballot. So day one, the machines are sent to the early voting site and the election site, they're sealed. Seals have to be broken. Seals have to be written down on the chain of custody form. The numbers have to be identified. Site coordinator and an election worker confirm that those seals. What do we do with those seals? Do we throw them in the trash? No, we have to maintain those seals. There is no trash cans at the elections office. That's the one thing we save money on. We don't need trash like trash cans, right? Because we don't throw anything away. We put all that has to go into a sealed envelope and it has to come back to our office. We have to keep those sealed. So that's why I have a bunch of boxes with just broken seals in them, because we have to keep them. So when that machine is open, on day one, and I'm going to do a little math with everybody here. When we open that machine, they have to print a receipt. Now, when I first came into office in 2019, I said, you know what? There's a lot of distrust in voting. How can we build it? In law enforcement, has anybody attended a law enforcement academy? They refer to it as a career academy, right? The reason why they do it in law enforcement is because they're trying to bridge the gap between the public and the agent. They want to educate you on what they do, how they do it, so you get a better understanding of how law enforcement works. Well, why can't we do that in elections? So I was the first supervisor of elections in the state of Florida to do an elections academy. We invited a number of voters in Seminole County. I did background investigations. As you heard, my part of my background in law enforcement is doing background investigations and giving lie detector tests. I do have the machine with me here today. If any of you would like to take it, I wouldn't do that to you. But I did a deep background on the voters because I wanted the Elections Academy to address voter concern, right? I didn't want it to be a place where candidates could pontificate or political parties would hijack. So we did a very good job of getting those voters in. It was an 8-week program, 4 hours or 3 hours once a night. And of course, it's on Tuesday, right? Because that's when our election. So I thought, I was kind of skeptical, right? I was cautiously optimistic, but I didn't know whether or not this information would be interesting enough to keep people coming back week after week. We had max attendance all 8 weeks. At the end of it, we had the director of the Division of Election as our keynote speaker, and they learned everything. They got to come behind the curtain and see exactly how elections are put together. They got to participate as an election worker, and they also got a chance to see what it's like to be the supervisor of elections. That was a very fun night. We put the cameras on them, the lights, and we're like, okay, now you get to answer questions from the media. Right? And they did such a great job because they had all this information. They were on. They were on. So it was a really cool experience. And we look forward to being able to offer that in Seminole County again. One of our sister counties, Palm Beach County, they are looking at doing it, and I received an email from that SOE requesting our material. So very good to create something and to share it with the rest of the team to help voters across the state of Florida. All right, so now what happened? How did we get to those elections? Let's take a look. So what I did is I said, you know what, let's be like CNN and Fox News. I'm gonna come over here. I'm about to turn the camera on. You know how the guys always pressing on the stuff, right? He's pressing on it, it's turning red, it's turning blue. I get to do that. But it's already red. It's not gonna change, right? So as you can see here, I have a map of Seminole County. Obviously, the precincts that are red are the precincts that Donald Trump won. And the precincts that are blue are the precincts that Joe Biden won. So we can see that the southern part of the county, it went blue. Trump won 33 precincts, Biden won 47. Well, how did that happen? (2016) Trump wins 43, Clinton wins 37. As you can see, a couple precincts in the southern part of the county actually went toward the Republican candidate. What changed? Our voting population changes. Between 2018 and 2020, Seminole County, we onboarded 30,000 voters plus in 2 years. That is a massive increase. It's a massive increase in voters, right? The difference was the NPA turnout. It was so interesting. I used Precinct 5 as an example. Precinct 5 in 2016 and 2020 had the identical turnout of both Republican and Democrats. Democrats turned out at 79% in 16 and 20. Republicans turned out at 84% in 2016 and 20. But the major difference were the MPAs. In 2016, it was a 10.6% decrease in the turnout in the presidential election with NPAs. They set it out. They set it out. They did not vote for, they did one of two things. Either they undervoted, which means they didn't vote at all in the presidential election, or they just didn't show up at all, didn't vote at all. I seem to think that it would be A, because most of the Republican candidates who won got more votes than Donald Trump. So that means that there were a lot of protest ballots. I can tell you that from the vote by mail that we saw, there was a lot of empty bubbles for the presidential election. So as I saw that, the numbers lined up. Precinct 10, 10% decrease in turnout. 16, 13%, 38, precinct 38, 12%, 11, 8, 10. These are significant decreases in turnout. So we had an increase in our voting population, but a decrease in turnout amongst no party affiliated voters in the presidential election cycle, which yields the results that we got. Now it all makes sense. If you voters don't vote, they showed up in 2016, we increased our voters, it didn't show up in 2020 for that particular race. So we had a lot of undervotes in the 2020 election cycle for president of the United States. That answers the question. So I'm going to go back and talk about the precinct. Let's go back and talk about the bank. How do you count for this political currency? At the beginning of the day, the machine is going to open up and it prints out a receipt. How many people knew that your tabulation machines print out a receipt? It's printing out a receipt of how many votes should be on that machine. So if it's been sealed and you open it up, what's our total for the first day? 0. So let's say we get 500 votes, right? Now, in most counties, except for Seminole County, we have a different check-in system. We use 10X products. Orange County is one of the only counties that they built their voting system. So, but they have converted over to VR products now. I don't know if you remember seeing the articles, but Bill went out and he converted all of his equipment over. That was a part of the legislation changes in 2019. And it was all around a good idea. So it worked out well. But Seminole uses 10X products. So we have a different vendor for check-in and a different voter, or a different vendor for tabulation. That's actually a good thing, because both systems have to add up. If we have 500 people check in today, how many pieces of paper should we have? 500. This is really easy, man. It's really easy. When we print out at the end of the day, on election day, not during early voting, because we don't shut the election down during voting, but it's still going on. When does the election end? November, right? It ends on election night, 7 p.m. So we had 500 people vote today. We have 500 ballots, right? So on election day, when you close down that machine, how many voters, what's the total going to be on that receipt? 500. Every election worker, except for the deputy outside, has assigned the beginning of day receipt and the end of day receipt. In most counties, including Seminole County, we staff our precinct bipartisan. That means that no one party affiliation is outnumbering the other. When the ballots are transported back to our office, the clerk has to do it, and they have to choose someone of a different party affiliation to arrive with. So as you can see, there's constant check and balance throughout the entire process. So most people don't know that the transmission of results, and Chris, how do you know that it can't be hacked? Vote by mail in every elections office is counted in-house. It's counted in-house. It will never go over any open sources. So we had 115,000 people vote, or 104,000 people vote by mail. So there in our election management system is a bucket for vote by mail, right? It's just sitting there. You can't look at the results. You can't do anything until 7 p.m. Early voting comes in. When early voting ends, all the machines that were used for early voting have to be sealed. You have to write the serial number on there. It has to come back to our office in the presence of the canvassing board, of other members. The machine results are tape is printed, the canvassing board will sign off on it, and those results are manually uploaded into the election management system. So early voting doesn't go across any open networks. So the two most popular methods of voting never touch any open source, any internet, never. Only election day has a transmission. Now, why do we transmit on election day? It's a really easy answer. Don't think too deep. Why do we transmit results on election day? I'm gonna go back to my map. Why do we transmit? Bingo, that's right, because at 7:01, everybody wants to know who won. That's right. My staff, they pick me, Chris, why do you like to rhyme? In flight school, when you're learning how to fly, it's a lot of acronyms. A tomato flames, you got to remember. So I've got in the habit of trying to rhyme, and it helps people remember things. I do it with my election work. 7:01, everyone wants to know who won, right? That cool guy wants to stand there and press on the board, and the results are coming in. That's blue. Oh, no, now it's red, right? That's why, because you all are calling. I had a candidate call me at 6:30. He called me at 6:30, and he said, Chris, who won? I said, this is my exact text message. I was like, bro, it's 6:30. I don't know. I can't tell you that right now, man. You gotta wait till 7 o'clock. But he was like, he thought I knew the answer to it. It's a federal offense. If you look at election results prior to 7:01, prior to 7 p.m., I'm not going to jail for anything. Okay? I've done a very good job of staying out of jail for 40 years. I'm going to continue that. So we have to transmit results. Why do we? And we're transmitting because everyone wants to know, right? So we have a 4G LTE modem in our election result in our tabulation machine that sends that results to us. All elections offices are required to transmit on a private network. Seminole County, we were one of 8 counties that installed that network very early on. We have a private transmission network that never touches the open internet, and we get our results. So the results in your counties are being transmitted securely because they never go across any open sources now. These are the types of changes that were made in 2019 from Senate Bill 7066 that ultimately made us successful in 2020, right? So I just gave you a really quick Reader's Digest of how elections processes work, how we handle both methods of voting. So now, election day results. When you go to the website, how many of you are scouring all of the websites looking at election day results and refreshing your screen? Right? Everybody's doing it, right? Well, what you're seeing, the very first results you're seeing is vote by mail, early voting. Those are the results that you're seeing at first. Election day is still coming in. In counties like Orange County, they have 246 precincts. That's going to take a little while. In Seminole County, we have 80 precincts. So you see it's got the differences and the challenges that are created. Larger counties have larger challenges. Sometimes smaller counties have challenges like in funding, right? So every county has a challenge, but this is why you're seeing the results the way you do. 10 days after the election is when we actually certify. So you're seeing what they call unofficial results on election night, okay? Now, last thing I'm gonna talk about is during the election cycle, we had a worldwide pandemic hit us, right? Every election office had to get very creative on how we were going to put together in-person voting. Very quickly, I decided to create a mailer where I sent out every registered voter on our voting roll a vote by mail request. I was not, and I will never be, in the position of allowing state or federal government to dictate how we will run elections in Seminole County. And the reason for that is because who knows best how to conduct elections in that county? The people that you elected to do that, right? So we take the guidance, we follow the laws, but I knew that the safest method of voting during a worldwide pandemic would be voting by mail. I can send you a vote by mail request. So I did it. I took this mailer, I tore it apart. My team was like, what are you doing? I was like, just bear with me, give me a second. You're gonna like this. We sent your vote. We already had, to send out a countywide mailer in Seminole County, probably cost you about $250,000. Couldn't afford to do that. Who budgeted for COVID? We already budgeted for a countywide mailer because every elections office is required to send out a voter information card. You all should have gotten one from your supervisor of elections. Well, it's a 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. The top piece was your voter card, and I put on the bottom the vote by mail request. 2 birds, 1 stone. Boom. We knocked that out of the park. First supervisor in the state to do it. I sent my mailer to about 14 different election offices, including Miami-Dade County. I only bring up Miami-Dade because Supervisor White, we always have this saying, if you can do it in Miami-Dade, you can do it anywhere, right? So when I had Supervisor White call me and again, want to utilize something that I created, I felt really good about being able to be a part of the team. I'm the new guy, right? You know, you like the rookie. You know, you got Bill Cowles, he's been doing it for like forever. You got Gertrude Walker in Port St. Lucie. She's the longest serving supervisor. Like she's been doing it for like 40 years. Still looks great, by the way. She looks fantastic. So, you know, I'm the rookie. And it felt really good to raise my hand and say, hey, I got an idea, because usually when rookies do that, you're like, you're still learning, man, be quiet. But when I had this idea, it felt really good to help others, just be able to return the favor because they helped me. So being able to send that mailer to them was awesome. It was great. We sent that out, and of course, our vote by mail population increased. Well, how are we going to do in-person voting? Because halfway through the election cycle, someone, I'm not going to say any names, kept saying that vote by mail was terrible. It was bad. Don't do it. Right? You say no names. But they kept saying it's bad. It's terrible. So I'm like, we just sent out vote by mail requests because it is, Carmen said, the safest way to vote, right? Vote safely in your home. Now people don't trust the mail system, don't trust vote by mail. What are we going to do? So people are going to show up to vote in person, right? We got to make it work. So we have stylists. When you come to sign in on our iPads, we use iPads. To sign in, you have to be able to do it. Now, everybody probably in here has a smartphone. When you're swiping left and right, the static electricity from your body is allowing that technology to take place. So yes, we became scientists during the election cycle in 2020. Well, my chief operations officer came in the office and she handed me a Q-tip with some aluminum foil wrapped around the stemmer. And I was like, well, what's going on? My ear's dirty? Like, are you trying to tell me something? She's like, no, try to saturate the Q-tip, saturate the cotton swab, the cotton part, and the saturation needs to touch the aluminum foil. I did it, signed on the pad seamlessly. It was beautiful. And we created 101,000 cotton swabs with aluminum foil tape. I jumped up from my desk, I ran down the Lowe's, and I said, they got aluminum foil tape, I do know that. We put it around there, and again, we created 101,000 of those Seminole safety stylists is what I call them. It's really cool. And I was literally standing in the precinct over voters like, go ahead. They didn't know who I was, right? I'm covering up my name tag. Try it out. They were like, oh my God, this is awesome. I was like, you can keep it. We went to every Dollar Tree in Seminole County. People were looking at me like, Everybody else is getting toilet paper. Chris, why are you getting so many cotton swabs? I like, just wait till you vote, you'll understand. Well, we found out something in the August election that you can't use purified water. Go figure. So I was like, okay, well, go ahead and throw that, put the cap back on that very expensive purified water bottle and just go get some tap water out of the bathroom. They did it, and of course it worked perfectly fine. So sometimes things are much simpler than what we think. Worked, did it, and because of it, we became a nationally recognized organization throughout the United States of America. The United States Elections Assistance Commission, it just sent me these certificate yesterday, has recognized the Seminole Safety Stylist as outstanding elections innovation. So very proud of our organization and all of our election workers for bringing that small tool into our process, which kept 300 or 262,000 voters safe as they cast their ballot. So I'm going to close with that because I know there might be some questions, and I'm here to answer them as I can. So yes, sir.
Obviously, you did a terrific job with the county and state. But how do we get any TV national laws from other states? Because there was a lot of they're terrible.
So the question is, how do we get everybody on the same page, right? That's basically it. Everybody being all the states. So the Constitution says that the states decide election laws. So it's really difficult. The first answer to the question is, you're going to have to ratify the United States Constitution. We all know how long that will take, right? So now you have, as Supervisor Cowles would say, you have 49 different ways of doing things. You have to be careful about comparing and contrasting in those ways because it does create some irregularities. I'll give you a prime example. This is probably going to change because they've learned their lesson. Pennsylvania, they had some issues, right? One of the issues was, why are you waiting until 7 p.m. to count vote by mail ballots? I could not imagine a room full of 104,000 pieces of paper just sitting there until 7 p.m. Just to let all of you know that an election starts 50 days prior to election day. So your elections offices are by the time we get to election day, we're like, whoo, if anything goes wrong, we only got like 10 hours left. So whatever. Because we've been pumping it the whole way through. For everybody else, you're just now getting involved, right? So if I had to wait till 7 p.m. when I'm trying to go home, so what if your boss came up to you and said, you know what? I really appreciate it. You've done a great job all day long. I'm gonna need you to stay here a little bit longer and count all of this paper. See you tomorrow, right? What if that, like, I was like, there's no way, right? So now, when I talked about the logic and accuracy test, we can start counting vote by mail ballots as soon as we complete that. For us, we could have started on October 10th. We started 14 days out. I was paying attention to the request ratio. I saw it got to 97,000, which was well above what we had gotten in 2016. I added 3 more days into our canvassing of vote by mail ballots, just so we had extra time because we have to be finished counting by 7 p.m., right? Why do I have to be finished by 7 p.m.? Because you guys want to know who won, right? You keep refreshing the screen to try and see who won. So we have to be done, right? I like that. 7:01, everyone wants to see who won, so we have to be done. Move around already. You guys are just giving me feedback. Yes, sir.
How will this new election law affect the various supervisors elections?
Okay. So I've got a little card here. It's not, every elections office is going to do what they can. And I can speak very confidently about for my other colleagues. We're going to do everything we can to make sure, and the question is, how are the new election laws going to affect voters? We're going to do everything we can to feel the impact so you don't. That's the first thing I tell a voter when they call. There are some changes, but a lot of these changes are things that we have to do. A lot of it is not on you. Prime example is the no solicitation of, a group at a voting precinct, and we've all been to them, There's people standing outside trying to earn your vote, right? You got different candidates waving signs. You got different groups trying to hand you their version of the ballot, examples that you should vote on. They can't do that within the 150-foot zone now. They can't even give you a bottle of water. In Seminole County, we experience pizza to the polls. I was walking into the polling locations and the election workers are checking people in and they're eating pizza. Like, first of all, you didn't call me and tell me you had the pizza. Second of all, who paid for that? And there was some groups were paying for pizza to get to the polls. So they can't do that kind of stuff anymore. Drop boxes. If there is a supervisor of elections, prime example, Lake County. Lake County has a drop box in front of their main headquarters. That drop box is not monitored 24/7, so it has to be removed now. Okay, and I actually talked to Alan yesterday. He was doing some electrical work, and he was, see, those guys answer my phone call when I call them, and he was telling me that that's because of this bill he's got to remove. So he can't have a stationary box there unless somebody's going to stand next to it for 24 hours a day. In Seminole County, we don't have that. Yes.
The national election, why do they start announcing the results of that in Western polls that not even close to that?
I think it's a time difference thing. Keep in mind though, the election results.
I might not want to go now, but my candidate won't.
Well, it shouldn't be telling you anything until 7 p.m. The only thing that a news organization can tell you, and that leads me to my next point of Senate Bill 90, is turnout. So what I do as a convenience to voters is I create a turnout matrix of vote by mail and early voting. So you can see the percentages, 30% of the population has voted by mail, 40% has voted early, right? Now it's actually codified in the law, it's required. On the Orange County website, Bill has a fantastic website. He has a widget on there that shows that to you. So now it's required that we provide election day turnout or election day, turnout on our websites. All SOEs have to do that. So I think it's a time difference issue, but remember the results that you're looking at 701 are unofficial results. So they could change, but no elections office in the state of Florida, at least, is going to give you results prior to that time period. Yes, sir.
I know that you operate on a budget, and say when you run out of money before the end of the year comes, how and where do you get more money to finish your year out?
So the supervisor of elections offices across the state of Florida are all funded by the general fund in the county, taxpayers. So every supervisor of elections in the state of Florida is probably the smallest piece of the general fund. And of course, as you can imagine, the sheriff is going to be the largest piece, right? Our sheriff's office takes up about 57%. So I always tease my sheriff because I used to work for him. I can do that without putting handcuffs on him. I just get out of the way, man. Let's move out, man. Let me get some money, man. Hey, you always taking up everything, man. So, but it's public safety, right? We want to keep your streets and your schools safe. So what we do is, first of all, that should never happen. You should be properly budgeting so that you don't run out of money. But let's say you do need something, you need more voting equipment, very expensive. I can tell you one high-speed counting machine is $127,000. One. That's right, we're all in the wrong business. Let's say we needed that. What we would have to do is we would have to go to the county and we would have to ask them for an amendment to our budget and request more funds out of the general fund. And they will approve it and give it to us. So that's how we are funded. Yes.
So how do you find out if somebody voted twice, more than once, or if they're dead? I mean, how do you verify that they're a legal voter?
Great question. So the question is, how do we know whether or not someone's voted twice or if there's any irregularity? First thing, the very first duty of the supervisor of elections, contrary to what we all think in running countywide elections, is actually the maintenance of the voter roll, maintaining it. Bill's got a big job. He's got almost 900,000 voters that he has to maintain. I've got 340,000, right? We have to maintain that voter roll. So we're constantly doing what we refer to as list maintenance. We're going through that roll, making sure that, what's your name, sir? That Calvin, you still live where you say you live. Because in the state of Florida, you have to vote where you live. And this is something that I want all of you to remember. I don't care where you're living at in the state of Florida. Elections mail is not affordable. So if you ever wondered why you didn't get your vote by mail ballot when you moved, it's because you didn't tell the supervisor of elections office that you moved. Because the post office is not supposed to forward ballots, any election mail, because you have to vote where you live. So what happens is, let's say the easiest way to be removed from the voting roll is to die. It's the easiest way, right? What we do is we get the death index that comes to us from the DMV, says someone's deceased. But we'll go a couple extra steps and we'll check obituaries. We'll look at some other, use some other systems that we have available just to confirm. Sometimes folks come in and they'll give us a death certificate and we can take them right off the roll. Any other method of removing someone from the roll is difficult. It takes a while. You have to be inactive for a period of time. We have to receive mail back from your address, and then we can start the process of removing someone from the roll. Now, we're constantly maintaining it. So let's say, Mr. Calvin, you moved. What we're going to do is, post office said you moved. So we're going to send an address confirmation to the address that we have on file. And maybe the post office is wrong. Who knows? Just because you put in a change of address, a forwarding address, remember, it's not that address confirmation is not going to come to your new address. So then it's going to come back to us. We have to send out 4 different pieces of mail. And the last one comes in red. Like, hello, did you get this? Are you still where you say you're at? If you are, you better tear this thing off and send it back, because if you don't, we're going to make you inactive. So we are constantly doing that all year long, every elections office. So, leads me to my next point. When you guys start making jokes about elections offices not working more than twice a day, now you know, wait a minute, Supervisor Anderson says that their main job is to maintain the voter roll. That's what we're doing. We have to stop doing it 90 days before a federal election. But other than that, we are constantly maintaining the voter roll. And it is a bit of a myth that people are voting. Another thing to answer your question is irregularities in voting. The system catches it, number one. Let's say you vote by mail and you say, you know what, I'm going to see if the system works. A gentleman tried to do that in Manatee County and Supervisor Bennett had him arrested. We had a case in Seminole County where a guy did it and had him arrested. That's one. Mail ballot fraud, per the Brennan Center and the Heritage Foundation, found that it's a 0.0002%, 25%, very low percentage of attempted mail ballot fraud out of the study that they did, first of all. But what we do is let's say somebody tries to vote by mail, right? They drop their vote by mail ballot in the drop box, right? They say, you know what, I'm just going to go in here and vote. Okay. When you do that, we're going to check you in because the vote by mail ballot has not been checked in. It's in a box. So when you go to check in on that system, before you guys turn around and walk to the voting booth after you're handed the ballot, your record is already marked as voted. Already. Before you deposit that ballot into a tabulation machine, your record is marked as voted. Because we don't care who you voted for. We just need to know that you voted. So that vote by mail ballot is going to come back to us at the end of the night. We're going to check it. We're going to run it through the system. What do you think is going to happen to your ballot? Boop, 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 boop. It's going to kick it out. We take back the first vote that comes in. You voted in person. Now, when I find out that you voted in person and that you turned in a vote by mail at the same place that you went and voted, per Florida State Statute 104.017 says it is illegal to vote in person, vote by mail, and then vote in person. I know that statute very well, right? So if you do that, I will refer that case to the state attorney's office for prosecution. But that's in very small cases. I hope I answered your question. Have any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for being here.
You're very
Great
welcome.
presentation. I have a friend who has been involved here on Election Day for years and years and years as an onlooker. And he said that he was so disheartened this past November at the number of ballots that he saw being scanned in where the person only voted for the presidential candidate and they didn't vote on any of the other candidates or the issues. And I was just curious, because he's only at one location, is that a trend that you're seeing, in your county as well? Is that a state or national trend?
That's a national trend.
And if that's the case, do you disaggregate that data in some way that you can attribute that to? Is it more the people who are voting blue who aren't filling out the rest of the ballot, or is it more people who are voting red who aren't filling out the rest of the ballot? And could that be why your county flips, but all the local candidates didn't flip?
So to answer the first part of that question, that is a national trend. Because what's the most popular race on the ballot? President, right? A lot of the local elections, they can't raise the amount of money necessary to get you interested in their races. Someone's running for county commission, city commissioner, supervisor of elections. And I walked up to one voter and I was like, yeah, Chris Anderson, running for supervisor of elections. I'm giving them stuff. They're like, we vote on that? It's like, yeah, we do. But part of that reason is because, like in Orange County, how long has Bill Counts been your supervisor? So you don't vote on it. So a lot of these races where there's not competition, it gets out of the mind of the voter as well, because you're not used to having to see it or vote on it. So you don't pay attention to it. Also, you like your state representatives and state senators. How many of you know who they are? Exactly. If you're not familiar with it, you tend not to choose it or vote on it. I'm guilty of it myself in my younger days, right? Because I wasn't the only thing I was really paying attention to. But the way I explain this is, I like my little rhymes. I like to be able to get into people's minds. When you look at your ballot, we should be voting on the things closest to our heart, because that's what affects us the most, not what's furthest away. The thing that's furthest away from us is the president. Your county commission, they're the ones that are deciding your millage rates, right? They are the ones that have the most impact. Even your city commission, those are the things that you really should be paying attention to. Your constitutional offices. So to your point, I try to come up with some terms that can really get into the mind of especially younger voters, because they are ones that don't pay as much attention to the stuff that's down on the ballot, to say vote on what's close to your heart and what's furthest away, but pay attention to what's close. Thank you very much.
And I'm available afterwards if anybody has any other questions, want to talk to me on the side. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Give Chris another hand for a great talk, a lot of information. Okay, we're now at the end of our meeting. Let me remind you that next week we have Taylor Caldwell, the president of the Barry Law Rotaract Club, and her group will be with us. So as we close the meeting, since we're a business club, remember to do business with Rotarians. And now for the four-way test. Of the things we think, say, or do, is it true? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? So be safe, be well, be involved, be a Rotarian. We stand adjourned.